When you have something that is great and looks like it could be the future of how money moves, it's technological innovation, it's important to keep those things in the United States. It's how we continue to advance as a country and stay ahead of everyone else in this global geopolitical game.
Welcome, everybody. We are here at the Bitcoin Policy Summit in Washington, D.C. I'm Frank Corva, the political correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, joined by Bitcoin developer Matt Corallo. Matt, welcome.
Thanks.
Good to have you here. I want to talk a little bit about the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act ended up borrowing some language from what was called the Bitcoin Regulatory Certainty Act, the BRCA. And I know that you were pushing hard with the Save Our Wallets campaign as part of that team. To make sure that this language that ended up getting included in the Clarity Act did get included. Can you talk a little bit about some of that language and why it's important?
Yeah, so the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act that you were mentioning was a super straightforward two-page bill that was just definitions and just said, like, look, this is what it means to be non-custodial. If you qualify for this, if you don't have the ability to take someone else's money, then you are not a money transmitter. You are not regulated under this regime that expects you to comply with AML, KYC, yearly examinations of your AML policies, all kinds of nonsense that a non-custodial wallet just cannot possibly comply with. So it really provides that clarity that you need for someone like Phoenix to stick around the US. We saw Phoenix leave, obviously under the Biden administration, under the prosecution of the Samurai case. Phoenix decided they couldn't stay in the US. And this provides that needed kind of clarity exactly for them to stay in the US.
Yeah. So the Clarity Act right now is being worked out. Seems like it's going to be a little bit harder than the Genius Act to get across the line. Do you have any insights on this? Are you hopeful? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I'm not a policymaker. I'm not on the Hill every day. That would be a question for Coin Center or somebody like or BPI folks, of course. But yeah, I'm obviously hopeful. The president's pushing it hard, and there are constituents on both sides of the aisle in Congress, on both the House and the Senate, who want to see this pass. I'm hopeful that Section 110 stays in there. The language you mentioned that got copied from or tweaked slightly, but moved over from the BRCA. Hopefully that stays in there because we need it to stay in there. And yeah, I'm just hopeful that it passes, that it doesn't become a victim to politics. Okay. Obviously, that's always a risk. But the more pressure that we, the Bitcoin community and the broader cryptocurrency community, put on Congress to say, look, you got to get this passed. This is really important to us. The more likely it is that it'll happen.
Yeah. In terms of strategy, you said you tweeted something, I think it was a few weeks back now, where you talked about this idea, like right now, when it comes to something like getting the Clarity Act across the line, we should very much join forces with the broader crypto space. Your thoughts on this? Why should we join forces right now?
Yeah, look, the reality is almost no one in DC has any idea that there is a difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And if we show up and we start lobbying Congress and saying, no, you got to do this thing for Bitcoin and we don't like those crypto people, they're going to sit there and just say, huh? And it's terrible political strategy. We can't do that. And importantly here, it is the case that historically a lot of crypto policy has been focused on stuff that does not impact Bitcoin at all. Right? You've got all the questions around securities regulations and stablecoin regulation, and none of this impacts Bitcoin in the slightest.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of crypto policy, we just let them do their thing and they can advocate for themselves, and that's not really our job to get involved there. Yeah. In this case, this really does impact all of us because the BRCA protects layer 2s, period.
Yeah.
Right? So that includes Lightning, that includes Arc, Spark, whatever other Bitcoin L2s you can name, but it also includes roll-ups on Ethereum. It includes state channels, whatever else you've got going on in other ecosystems. All these L2s also need the same language to protect their right to have good non-custodial wallets as well. So in this case, we both want the same thing. It is infinitely more powerful and more compelling to Congress if we're both there towing the same line. And so in this case, we really do need to work with our friends, our enemies, whatever you want to think, across the aisle of crypto and the crypto ecosystem, and just work together as a broader industry, not just Bitcoin.
Okay. Today at the event, I believe you sat down with Congressman Richie Torres, if I'm not mistaken. What are some things that you touched on in that talk?
Yeah, so Richie Torres joined a panel with myself and another congressman on the House Finance Committee. Richie Torres is obviously one of the co-sponsors of the BRCA originally. Now we have more co-sponsors joining, which is great. But yeah, I mean, look, we really talked about how important this is to not overregulate innovation. When you have something that is great and looks like it could be the future of how money moves, it's technological innovation, it's important to keep those things in the United States. It's important to allow developers to build those things in the United States. It's important to have people using those things in the United States, because that's how we grow the pie in the US. It's how we continue to advance as a country and stay ahead of everyone else in this global geopolitical game.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, we touched a bunch on that. And Torres obviously is a big proponent of avoiding overregulation. He's a strong Democrat, but also wants to avoid overregulation. So I know that's some people question those things, but they exist. And so there's a lot of, and it's like there's a growing caucus within the Democratic Party who wants to push for growth and avoiding overregulation. And so he's certainly a part of that. And those are the kinds of people we want to work with as the Bitcoin community and who we want to really promote.
In your humble opinion, as a final question here, why do you think the Richie Torreses, as of right now, are sort of few and far between? As you said, there is a growing caucus. There's a growing number of people. We are potentially moving to a world where, whether it's Bitcoin or stablecoins, whatever it is, more stuff happens on blockchains. We want to preserve some semblance of privacy, make it easier for developers to develop. Why is that so hard, do you think, to get through to politicians?
Yeah, look, I mean, in the United States, there are fairly limited use cases for Bitcoin for a normal person, right? An average American has access to great financial services. Well, okay, good financial services, but mostly they have access to the dollar and the US stock market. And those are
PayPal,
great.
Venmo, things like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Which are in many cases worse than the financial services in most of the rest of the world. In fact, we have some of the worst payment infrastructure in the world. This is a totally separate topic.
Understood.
But
Next time.
but we have access to the dollar and the US stock market.
Yep.
And so if you're a regulator and you see this speculative asset that exists only in your view for speculation, and also is used to scam elderly people and also is used to commit crimes or raise money for North Korea, you're going to look at that and say, the balance of trade-offs here is not good.
Yeah.
It's not in the public's best interest.
Yeah.
Of course, that misses a lot of context. That misses that most of the rest of the world uses Bitcoin for actual transacting because it is an important avenue to gain access to hard currency for them.
Yep.
And it misses a lot of this context. And so that's hard to impart. People in the House and in the Senate are busy. They have to regulate or not regulate or take a stance on everything that's happening in the United States. And so trying to get them to care about our little niche industry is hard. But as we are able to accurately communicate this, as we had the HRF folks here today who gave a number of really great talks about how activists are using Bitcoin around the world to fight back against tyranny and against repressive regimes. As we make those kinds of arguments more our front and center, that speaks to yet another different caucus within DC who are really going to take that and say, oh, okay, now I understand there is value in this freedom money thing. It's not just the speculative investment that happens to get used for crime.
Yeah, appreciate that. As a final thought here, you're involved, as I mentioned earlier, with the Save Our Wallets campaign. Can you tell people what specifically they can do to get involved with that and where to go to find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we need people to go to saveourwallets.org. We need them to call their congressperson. You can go to saveourwallets.org. You can type in your zip code. It's super straightforward. It'll pull up. You have 2 senators, 1 House rep. Pick up the phone and call them. It'll give you the phone numbers. Say, hey, look, I care about Bitcoin. I want to have access to non-custodial wallets because I care about using them and I want to transact with them. And I need you to support Section 110 of the Clarity Act. Make sure that stays in there and make sure it gets passed.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Call your senators, call your congress people, support Section 110 of the Clarity Act. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Yeah.